Hello, my name is Richard Greene. I'm president of the IICRC. Our headquarters is in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is a special edition of IICRC TV, and today we're going to talk with Jeff Bishop, a 46-year veteran of the cleaning and restoration industry, about what certified firms could do to help with the Houston Harvey disaster in Texas. Jeff, there are some companies who want to help immediately. What would you suggest would be the first thing that they could possibly do?
The registrants of the IICRC have been calling with offers to assist. They have the equipment, expertise, and know-how, but they aren't sure exactly how they should respond. So we think they should consider several of the following tips. They should consider donating to a reputable disaster relief organization, such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, Samaritan's Purse, groups like that who have a reputation for providing great services. The first priorities are, of course, food and drinking water, medical care, clothing, and shelter for the victims of the disaster.
Thank you, Jeff. What about partnering? What about subcontracting with other companies? Is that an option?
Companies who have disaster services available and they are willing to go to a disaster area, they should consider contacting another certified firm in that area and subcontracted their services to the company that's already established there. These companies have proper business licensing and they have knowledge of the area and the people in that area. They also have the ability to follow up with services where necessary.
Thank you, Jeff. What about the firms that have decided to pack up and go? What are the tips that they need to know?
Now, before a certified firm considers packing up and heading for a disaster area, there are a lot of factors that they need to consider, very practical issues that need to be taken care of. First of all, they need to consider licensing requirements. Some states or municipalities require licensing or code compliance for services such as demolition or even antimicrobial application. Certified firms also should consider that sometimes the damage is so severe, there's really not much they can do. It really comes down to demolition and rebuilding structures after the floodwaters have receded.
Thank you, Jeff. What about communication? What about logistics? What about the things on the ground they need to be concerned with?
Communications and power are not likely to be available. So many of the certified firms will need to have power and water available that normally would not be on in the aftermath of a major disaster. Restorers should provide considerations such as generators and freshwater holding tanks on the vehicles with which they respond. You also must provide fuel for the vehicles and equipment that are going to be responding. The fuel should be transported, of course, in an open bed of a pickup truck or on an open trailer. We also need to consider that roads and bridges may be impassable in the disaster area. So it's usually prudent for the certified firm to respond to the disaster with plans to remove debris, such as trees, other debris that accumulates. When power lines are down, of course, it's the only proper response there is to call the power company to get them to safely disconnect power and remove those lines from roads so that you can access the customer's property. Certified firms also will need to plan to provide a supply of food and water for all the employees, at least for the initial days until restaurants can be reestablished and open for business.
Thank you, Jeff. What about accommodations on the ground?
We also need to understand that accommodations will be scarce. Most of the disaster victims will be moving into hotels and motels. There will be no room for us to come in after the fact and occupy those. So it may be prudent for us to consider having a self-contained recreational vehicle or RV to provide shelter and also provide office space for processing paperwork. It's also necessary for employees to get safety briefings, both in classroom training and on the job site.
Thank you, Jeff. Tell us about insurance coordination.
It's also important for certified firms to understand that insurance coordination may be difficult. Adjusters will be overwhelmed with the volume of work they have to serve their policyholders. Therefore, paperwork may be held up a little bit, and it may be difficult to obtain information about policyholders and about coverage requirements. Sometimes insureds are even reluctant to do anything or to authorize the certified firm to do anything until someone is on the scene from the insurance company giving them policy information. That's usually a bad idea because most insurance policies that I know of have a loss mitigation clause which authorizes insureds to take reasonable and prudent steps to preserve, protect, and secure their property from ongoing damage that's inevitable the longer the water stays in the property.
Anything else that you can think of?
We also need to consider that administrative coordination is absolutely essential. As we say in the Army, the job's not complete till the paperwork's done. It's really important to have a clerk to record all of the necessary steps in the restoration process. They need to have a file that contains a record of the work authorization, the work orders, the job scope, purchase orders that may be needed for additional materials, work progress reports, completion certificates, payroll, billing, all the usual administrative procedures that any business is going to undertake. Those businesses need to have computers on location, and of course printers may be necessary as well to print out the work orders that are given to the crews every day.
What about the overall commitment by the company and maybe some financial questions?
Next, there's the all-important consideration of how to finance the response. According to the Washington Post, 80% of the property owners have no flood insurance at all. Full payment may take months in order to process all the paperwork that's necessary on that. Mitigation services may require weeks or months to complete, especially given the large number of jobs that a certified firm may be given. Therefore, it is necessary to consider ongoing company business back home and make sure that's not interrupted. And it's usually prudent to consider the impact of the absence of employees on their families over a period of time as well. Now, let me hasten to add that storm damage on large commercial or complex residential structures requires a whole different set of skill sets. There's a requirement for much more expertise, much more coordination, licensing, code compliance, and many other factors. If someone is interested in getting into commercial work such as that, there's a document on the IICRC website that may help them. It's a checklist that goes through everything that's necessary for complying with large commercial restoration claims.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there anything else they need to think about before making that trip?
Mitigation services may take weeks or months to complete, especially given the volume of work that's usually forthcoming in a disaster area. Therefore, company owners should consider the impact of prolonged absence on the company operations back home and make sure they are not disrupted. The second thing is that the company owner should consider the impact of prolonged absence of employees on their families as well. That's an important consideration. Some property owners, especially those with small children, occupants who are extremely allergic or have certain diseases that compromise their immune systems, they usually will require follow-up post-remediation verification performed by an indoor environmental professional. or as our standards call it, an IEP. IEPs have the knowledge, background, and experience to evaluate the health status of occupants and to evaluate the result of the remediation effort. Well, in closing, let me say that the IICRC staff and leadership is proud to be part of an organization like this that provides a positive impact on communities and the victims of storm damage and natural disasters. Certified firms help get people and their lives and property back in operation again.
Thank you, Jeff. That's good, solid information. Thank you for that. For those of you that are interested in going to Houston to help or to find out more information, please just go to our website or you can call our certified firm hotline. Thank you again from Las Vegas.